Hello, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. Today in this stream, we are going to talk about a lot of current news. I will be talking mostly about European news, European perspective on news, and also even some news from right here from my country here in Portugal that I think one news that has popped up in the stream in the news recently that I find it's very important for us to discuss and talk a bit about. So, without further ado, let me just say something before we start. I'm sorry if the light is a bit dimmer or if you hear a fan in the background, but it has been extremely hot here in Portugal, even in the coast. And yesterday I had to do some work in the outside, so I was in the sun for many hours. And well, let's just say me and the sun, we are not friends. So I ended up feeling pretty sick and puking and all of that. You know the drill. And well, it's the curse of being too white sometimes. So if I stop often to drink water and even the slightly more dim scenario, you'll now understand why. Now, without further ado, let's watch the first video. All of these videos are available.
Large parts of Europe will see high temperatures over the weekend, as experts warn that intense heat in spring is becoming a new normal. In Paris, temperatures are expected to reach 31 degrees on Saturday, while the south of the UK will hit 32 degrees on Sunday. Southern Spain, meanwhile, will see temperatures climb to a scorching 38 degrees. Countries in the Mediterranean basin, like Italy, Greece, Spain and southern France, are the most affected by the phenomenon. Increasingly serious bouts of extreme heat are impacting nations whose housing stock, transport networks and hospitals were not designed for high temperatures. Researchers at Imperial College London looked at 854 European cities and found that climate change was responsible for 68% of the 24,400 estimated heat deaths last summer.
Now, folks, this is going to become a worry. It going to become. This is already one of the main concerns around here in Europe, because we are feeling the effects of climate change, and unlike some people across the world, and I'm looking at you, American MAGAs, and all of that little group of idiots, we know this is climate change, okay? And no, it's not normal, and yes, it's caused by human intervention, okay? You have to stop with that rhetoric and start to understand this. And you know, over time, I have I have seen. If I'm a bit slow, excuse me, okay? It has to do with the heat. From the start, I have seen over the years noticeable changes in the weather. And you know, climate change is not just extreme, more heat here or more cold here or less ice here or more ice there. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, climate change has essentially to do with extreme events, and this event that we are now facing, which is extreme heat in the spring, we are not even in summer. This has become a norm. This is something that used to happen, let's say, once in a decade, according to people that are older than me that spoke about it and talked about it with me. And that now, every 3 years, every 4 years, you have this event, okay? You have an extreme event of heat Just like the droughts, drought used to be normal in southern Europe and in the Mediterranean base. Okay, it used to be normal. It used to happen, every 6 years you would have a year of a drought in which we would have a few less water available in the ground, less rain during summer. Okay, all of that. And now, instead of being at that large period of time, instead of you having it every 6 or every 10 years or whatever, it's now happening every 3 years. And sometimes, instead of having 1 year of drought, you will have 2 years of drought. And in the winter, sometimes you used to have extreme cold. And right now, you are having more bouts or more events, sorry, of extreme cold. And you can bitch all you want, you can find each and every reason for it, and you can do whatever you want. The truth is, this not used to happen. This is reality hitting you in the nets and telling you this is happening. You cannot deny it, just like you cannot deny that the earth is round, my friends, okay? You cannot deny that climate change is upon us, and we are going to have to deal with it. And we are going to have to start actively to counter it. But we are not going to stop it. Let me be clear about that. Even if today we all stopped using the methods of production or production of existence and of production of energy and of polluting the environment, even if today we all stopped doing it, we would still endure the effects of it for at least one generation. Let's be clear about it. But what is scary is that some things that used to keep our world more or less stable, especially in Europe, like the Gulf current, they are stopping. The Gulf current is stopping. The Gulf Stream, it's stopping. Okay, it sometimes it really halts for a day or two or something like that. That is the same stream, the same winter, the same pattern. If you don't know what it is, go in and investigate it and just write in YouTube or something like that. What is the Gulf Stream and how it works? Okay, if you want me to make a video about it, leave a comment about it, and I will make a video about it explaining the Gulf Stream. That is that Gulf Stream. It warms up Europe in summer, in winter, sorry, so making it less cold when the cold masses of air come from the Arctic, and it also makes Europe not that hot during the summertime. Okay, it's like an engine that warms up under an undersea engine that warms up and cools Europe and also the North America. All right. This is why, for example, you have snow in New York and Lisbon that is at the same latitude as New York. Rarely has snow. Very rarely, really. Almost not ever. And we have been having those types of phenomena more often. Snowstorms and other types of things. And look, I don't hold some kind of magic answer to tell you, but what I have to tell you is that if you don't do anything about this, we will be getting into trouble. Okay. All right, but look, climate change is upon us. We are all suffering the effects of it. I speak for me personally. This summer, I will probably buy myself some kind of portable air conditioning unit or something like that, because I don't want to spend another summer like I spent, not the previous but in the other, in which I was constantly sick. I could not rest because the years keep piling up on you, and you have your health issues and you have your problems and all of that. You get older, which is the truth. and you start requiring these types of things to endure. And look, my friends, it's going to be more expensive, but I will probably do it. I will probably buy myself some an air conditioned unit for at least to rest during the night, to be able to be in a cooler environment during the night. Because even here in the coast where I'm living right now, the weather patterns have been getting wilder and wilder. Okay, we had extreme cold days in the winter. I- and you know, cold does not bother me at all, right? I deal with cold much better. I feel much better with the cold, so much so that I have often talked about that when I retire, I'm going to live in a northern country. I don't know, maybe return to Deutschland or to go somewhere else. But I will probably not end my days here in Portugal, my country that I love. But I will probably not end my days here. Now, let's go to the next video. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of videos. I'm going to pause in between both videos and I'm going to explain to you what is happening. But this is a news piece that has been here in the news here in Portugal in the last days, and for good reason. This has to do with a French couple, two French nationals, the mother of two children and the stepfather, that abandoned two children, two little children. They are going to tell you how old they were here in the video. That abandoned two children in a rural area here in Portugal. All right, but let's watch this first video first, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, my friends, let's go.
Two young French boys aged 4 and 5 were rescued in Portugal this week after they had been abandoned on the side of the road by their mother, with nothing but backpacks containing some food and water. They were found by a local passerby who took them to a bakery run by his family.
Meu filho é que os encontrou lá à estrada. Estavam sentados e quando viram o carro, que até é este, por acaso até está hoje na quis trabalhar, os miúdos viram o carro e dirigiram-se ao carro, a chorarem.
The family took the children in, providing shelter, food, and toys for them to play with. They had reportedly explained how their mother had left them in a wooded area.
Puseram-me na floresta, taparam os olhos e mandaram-me ir à procura de brinquedo. Quando eu vi, já não estava o carro da mamã, já tinha abalado.
Police later took the children to a nearby hospital in the city of Setúbal. They're currently in a foster family and in good health. Following a manhunt, their mother was found and arrested on Thursday on suspicion of abuse, endangerment, and abandonment. Their stepfather, known to French authorities and with a prior conviction for domestic violence, was also arrested. An investigation has also been opened in France, where the mother's disappearance was already under investigation.
All right. First thing, hi Viper Scott. Thank you for coming, Alistair. I hope everything is all right with you. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is this. I know this area where these children were abandoned like the back of my hand, okay? I am a southern Portuguese. What we call here is what we call here Alentejano, meaning from the province of Baixo Alentejo, which basically means lower beyond the Tagus River. Hello, exotic dog. And what you have to understand about this region is that it's not a very children-friendly zone. This is a zone of marshlands and pine forests. This is a zone where the rice paddies exist. Portugal is one of the countries that produces the most rice and eats the most rice here, right here in Europe. So this is a region that you have the Tagus River that passes by. It falls north. This is a curiosity. It flows not like the Nile. And in this region, what do you have? You have a lot of national reserves, meaning protected areas of a lot of marshlands and forests, and then you have also the coastline. But this is definitely not a region where you would abandon a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old child. Okay, this is an absolutely disgusting behavior by these people, and the area where they drop them is even worse, because I'm going to explain this to you. They just talked about the man that took them to the family bakery and all of that shit, but let me tell you what happened. This man, he was distributing bread. Okay, he's the baker, and he was distributing bread and around in the area, and he happened to pass by that road. That is not, it's a road that is often used, but it's not that used. Okay, I know, I will repeat this again, I know that region like the back of my hand. Okay, I camped in that region, I have friends in that region, I traveled in that region. When me and my parents, we had our bakery, I went with my father to distribute the bread in that region. So I know exactly how that region is. And when I do my trekking, my hiking in the woods, I sometimes like to go north and go to that region, because it has a lot of wildlife, it has a lot of beautiful things to see, but it's a dangerous region. And what happened was this mother, if I can call her that, she took the children to the middle of the pine woods, so she didn't leave them in the side of the road. Okay, she took them inside of the woods, pine forest. She blindfolded them, and she told them it was a game and that they had to find a toy. This is what this woman did. The children somehow, they avoided falling into a rice paddy that in this time of the year, it's muddy and it's dangerous. It's like walking, and it's this region also has, like I told you, marshlands. So this is not a friendly zone, so to speak. Okay, this is not some kind of magic plain with some forest. No, this is a region. It's, you don't have alligators or anything like that. Okay, you have a lot of birds, you have boars, you have foxes, you have other types of specific little mammals that live in the area, but you don't have any kind of apex predators. You have some bugs that are poisonous, you have some stuff like that, because this is marshlands, but it's not that. It's the physics of the space itself. And these two little boys, 5 and 4, okay, they walked from the woods to the back of the road, and they were crying in the road. And when they saw the man coming in his car, the man saw the two children abandoned in the back of the road. Okay, what did he do? He stopped the car and he took them in. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is these children are French, but a Portuguese can understand French quite easily. Okay, it's not hard, and we are talking about a country in which anyone below 50 and many people below 60 or more, they speak at least 2 more languages than their national one. Anyone around here can speak or at least understand English or French. These are mandatory disciplines at school. And the man, he understood what was happening. I saw the man in the news. He was crying. Big, tall guy in his 40s or something like that. And the man was completely emotional about it. He took in the children, he took them to the family bakery, and then they saw that the kids were all right. They fed them, they gave them water because they were probably dehydrated because it's been absolutely scorching here. Like I said in the beginning of the video, even yesterday, I went to do a job that included some walking out in the sun, and I got sick. This so if you hear a fan, guilty as charged. And he took them in and he called the police. And then they captured the couple in Fatima. And I would like you to go into Google Maps, for example, and see the distance between Alcácer do Sal, which is the area, the town in which they were found, all right, and Fatima, which is where you have the sanctuary of the Madonna, where the children saw an apparition of the Virgin Mary up there. Okay, this is, you believe or you don't believe. It's I'm not going to try to give you a distance, but it's over 200 kilometers. So they left the children in that area, and they hauled ass to the north. These children, they could have died in the woods or in the marshlands. They could have fallen into some muddy land and drowned. These children could have been attacked by some kind of wild animal, even a wild dog. These children, they could have been stopped by some kind of person with an ill intention to hurt them. Anything could have happened to kids, and they were lucky enough that this region, the southern region of Portugal, we still have a strong culture, okay, a strong community culture. And as a southern Portuguese, like this lady, I don't speak. My accent is not very different from this lady when I'm talking normal in Portuguese. It's not very different. They even have a different dialect, just like in England. You will have a different way to speak in different parts of England, and I'm talking about England, okay? You will have different types of speaking English. People will not speak the same anywhere. This is the same here. And they were found by good people. Okay, by people that would never harm a child, let's say. But they were lucky. Yes, 130 miles approximately. Yes, Viper. And you are right. I'm reading the comments here of Viper Scott, who's of Alistair. Language other than English needs to be mandatory in schools in UK. Yes, it helps. It helps. Look, there is nothing wrong with learning at least 2 more languages than your national one. I have explained this before. I'm not going to go into it, but I speak a lot of languages, and it only benefits you. Okay, and it's not being you don't need to be snooty about it. Okay, these are tools that you can find. That man probably had French in school, even with the similarities between Portuguese and French. But that man probably had French in school. He understood everything that those kids were saying. And I wish I could show you some pictures, some videos about it, but they are all in Portuguese. I might try to find something with some subtitles or something for you to understand. But the man was crying. Okay, I even heard an interview that he gave to a local radio, I think it was Radio Sines, which is a local radio station or something like that. And the man was crying. He was imagine this: you are the baker, you are distributing the bread, and suddenly you come across a rural road, and there are 2 children in the middle of the road crying. Can you understand how the man was? He was absolutely devastated. But now, this is when it happened. Now I'm going to show you what happened to the mother and to the father, and a couple of things, a couple of more things that I have here to show you. Let me just pass here to the next video. The video that I'm going to show you right now is also from Euronews. I chose to use videos from Euronews because they are more synthetic and it's easier to show them to you because they are all in English. All right, let's watch the next video. This is them arriving at the courthouse in Setúbal, which is the main courthouse, criminal courthouse of the region. Yes, I understand, Viper Scott. Anyone. I would also be very upset too. Just, let's watch the video. And Exotic Doll, did I say hi? Hi, okay?
A Portuguese court has remanded in custody the mother and stepfather of two French children that had been abandoned on a roadside earlier this week. Considering the couple a flight risk, the court ordered the 41-year-old woman and 55-year-old man to be placed in pretrial detention for the crimes of aggravated assault, endangerment, and abandonment of the boys after a 2-day hearing. The case has drawn widespread attention in Portugal and France since the two small boys were found on Tuesday evening crying beside a road near Alcácer do Sal. The couple was arrested Thursday by Portuguese authorities in the central town of Fátima and brought before an investigating judge on Friday at the court in the southern port city of Setúbal. The children have been placed with a French foster family in Lisbon pending their return to France.
All right. The pictures that you were seeing, it was the courthouse in Setúbal, the back door, so to speak. Let me explain to you how this works. In Portugal, we have central courts, meaning where you have a court administration, where you have a senior judge, a senior district attorney's office, someone from the district attorney's office, okay, and it has a centralized guidance, so to speak. Then you have smaller courts. You have a court, for example, in Alcácer do Sal. You have in the other cities that are a part of that group, which are Santiago do Cacém, Sines, Grândola, and Grândola. Okay, and a couple of more. But let's go. When you have these types of criminal events, people are brought before a judge, and they have a lawyer that is appointed to them. No one goes before a judge without legal counsel, and then they go into a hearing where a judge and a district attorney's office person, another magistrate from the DA, so to speak, to make it easier, the DA and their lawyers, and then they listen to them. They see if they want to talk or not. Okay, right now we don't know, because these proceedings, what they said and what they did, whatever, they are not going to be public. This is called the segredo de justiça, which means literally justice secrecy. Meaning only the people involved know what happened, and this is how it has to be, so that nothing pollutes the inquiry. This is very specific to us, but it's this way that things are proceeded. And now, what is going to happen to them? The guy is going to go to the regional jail in Setúbal, in the city of Setúbal itself. And the woman, she's going to the woman's jail in Tires, which is in the region of Lisbon. They are both going to wait their trial pending the inquiry. It's simple as this. For now, at least for 3 months, they are going to wait for the proceedings inside of a jail cell. And given the nature of the crime, I I think it's very, very doubtful that they will be freed with any other kind of mandatory measures, so to speak. I'm sorry, my tongue is a bit muddy today. This damn heat kills me. But now I'm going to tell you about the other side that they were not talking here. When they were apprehended, the couple, they were apprehended in Fatima. Hello, Billy Kasha. When they were apprehended in Fatima, both of them, the guy, I think it was the guy or the girl, the guy told her in French, imagine the stupidity of the people. Don't say anything, we are going to pretend we are mad. And of course, the police officer that was with her, he understood everything that she said. This is also a symptom that this woman and this man, they planned to do this. They came all the way here to Portugal to abandon their children. And frankly, I don't care what are their reasons. This was the first thing that was all over here in the news. Okay, and it was clear. They also talked about what the children told the man that found them and all of that. And these people, they are not going. These people, I don't really understand. I don't know if they are really stupid, if they are evil. I don't really care. But to try to combine your depositions in Portugal because you think people will not understand you, I think you are really stupid. Look, if you speak English or German or French, and of course Spanish is more similar, but the Spanish, they already know that we understand them. But if you come, and the Italians also know that we understand them. If you come here and you start speaking French and you think you don't understand, and we don't understand you, mais bien, vous êtes trompé, mon ami. On comprend tout ce que tu dis. Then you are wrong, my friend. We understand everything that you say, because even the tone of the language, even just by the tone of the French language, anyone in Portugal will understand you. My mother is over 80 years old, and she understands French. She also understands a bit of German, but that has to do with our family history. But it's easy to understand French. This is I'm convinced. This is my personal conviction. They heard about that French guy that assassinated his wife in France and then ran here to Portugal with the kids, because this has happened in the past. These types of situations. Just like the case of the McCanns, but I'm going to make a separate video to talk about that. I'll make a video to talk about that, to talk a bit about it. But they were convinced that they could come here to Portugal, abandon their kids, and then fake some kind of having some kind of mental issue. Well, no, that shit won't fly here. And you saw how those cops were holding them. I will tell you this, and I will tell you again and again. And I'm going to swear right now, so if you are offended, I'm very sorry. But I'm going to tell you this. Portuguese cops, usually, we have assholes too, they are very polite. They are very calm. But if you fuck with them, they will fuck with you. You saw how he was holding him, the way that he was holding him. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what I'm trying to say when I say that you do not need to use violence to apprehend a person. You don't need to do that American shit of knees in the back and all of that. No. you need to assert dominance. And I'm sorry, it's violent, but we are dealing with criminals. These cops will not, how can I say, the people that are investigating this, they are going to explore every avenues of this crime. Exactly, though. I will talk exactly, though. Yes, I'm just not going to talk in this stream, okay? Because I have other things to talk about, okay? But I promise you, I'm going to make a video about the mechanics, and I'm going to talk about the perspective here in Portugal and how things went. Because if you don't know this, the mechanics were technically, just to end this part, they were technically guilty of negligence here in Portugal. They were not exempt. Here they simply were not able to prove any kind of crime. Okay? Yes, Viper Scott, legally restrained. That is what the term that I was trying to make. Now, the children. The first thing you are going to have to understand in this case is this. The children are the most important part in this entire affair. Regardless of what happened, the children are the most important part of this affair. I am certain they have already been interviewed by social care workers, people that are experts in dealing with these situations. There is already a case file about this subject in the court, and what happens to the children will have nothing to do with these two lunatics. These two lunatics, the stepfather and the mother, they are going to the criminal system. They are going to be criminally tried, all of that, and the abandonment of the children, it will only be a part of that case file, but that will have nothing to do with the destiny of the children. The children are now with foster parents. And this is something that is usual, this is common. Portugal has a system of foster parenting, meaning people that are screened. This is not foster parenting like in the United States, okay? It has nothing to do with this. These are people that are usually volunteers that volunteer themselves to take care of children that are in hard situations and that need some support. And smaller children, of this age, they usually don't go into any kind of system of college or something like that. They are with foster families. All right. What will follow is another procedure. The court will try first to see if there are any relatives of the children that are willing and capable of taking in the children, okay? Because here they always try to put the children in the family environment, if that is possible. Billy Kershaw, I'm going to stop just this part just to tell you. Yes, they were very lucky. They were very lucky because that is not a good place to leave children unattended. If you roll back a bit the stream, I explained to you how that region is. But as I was saying, now the Portuguese courts and with the French authorities, of course, with the French authorities, they are going to decide what will happen to the children. They said in the news here that the father of the children, of these two boys, he was already coming from France to Portugal to meet with the authorities, probably Monday, in order to see, I don't know if he can stay with the children or whatever, but whatever happens, this is a decision that will always be taken very calmly, without any rushes, because the Portuguese state is now the carer of these children. They are under our responsibility. We have communicated to the French authorities because, of course, the children are French citizens, but they are under our care. If the French authorities, for example, they present a family member that is willing to stay with the children, or if they agree that the children can go with their father, that their father has the conditions to keep the children, then all good. This will be quicker. If not, these children will stay in foster homes until there is a solution. And if there is not a solution, then they will stay in the system here in Portugal. Okay, this is not something that is that unusual. You have children from different nationalities in the EU that are right now here in Portugal in foster care. Okay, this happens just like you will find, for example, Portuguese children in the French system or whatever, because the children, they are our responsibility. Okay, they will. The event happened here, but if we can solve things with the French authorities, things will go much smoother. Now, the second thing I'm going to talk a bit with you about here is this. According to Portuguese news, this woman, she did the same thing to an older child that she has, that is, I think he's now 16 years old, or 16 or 15. I heard the two versions. So this is not the first time that this woman has done this, and she left the father of the children, apparently because they were having marital issues or whatever, and these children were given to her by a French court. So something is wrong here. So this is an entire process that is coming to light right now, and this will have consequences in France too, because someone decided this woman was able to care for children when she clearly is not, because she abandoned two children that would have died if they were left there. They could die of dehydration. Okay, during the night, the nights are very cold there too, and I've spoken about the physical dangers in that region. Okay, the marshes, all of that. But what I'm trying to tell you is this: you are going to hear more about this. These people now, they are going to the mother and the stepfather. They are going to go into to jail. They are already in jail, and now the authorities are going to start to investigate this and make it as quickly as possible. They are going to be trialed here in Portugal, unless the Portuguese and the French authorities decide differently, and this can happen too. This has happened. There are, for example, I remember a case a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, where a Portuguese couple, they were arguing in France, and this happened in France, in South France, in Marseille, I think. They were arguing, and the guy, he killed his wife, and he ran to Portugal, and the trial was not held in France. Okay, the trial was held here in Portugal. The French state sent in all of the evidence, physical evidence, the testimonies, and all of that to the Portuguese court, and that guy was trialed here. As for what awaits these people, well, if they are convicted, a lot of years in jail. If they are convicted, but I'm not going to tell you 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because I'm not a judge, and nor I would want to be one. Okay, but there are a lot of consequences. This woman can be, the woman, she can be, for example, forbidden from being a parent to these children, meaning she can lose her right as a mother to these children. She may not ever be granted any kind of visitations. The children may never be at her care. A lot of things can happen. There is right now, I know of women that were convicted by these types of crimes. that they lost the ability of being a parent. We unfortunately unfortunately we cannot legally sterilize her, but I think she would deserve it, because this woman, she has no right of calling herself a mother. And we hear a lot about violence to women and to children, and this is a staunch example in which violence comes from a woman. And it even becomes more odd. She told the children they were going to play a game and that they were going to find the toy in the woods. She blindfolded them and she left. Remember this whenever you see this in the future. This woman left her children alone in the middle of the woods in marshland. She put the blind over their eyes and she ran away. This is what this woman did. Never forget that. But as for the future, look, now it's all up to the court. But if nothing weird happens, so to speak, these children are going to be protected, and rest assured that will happen. Okay? And the Portuguese state has a lot of issues, but taking care of children is not one of them. And from what I heard, this is also important. The foster couple, the foster family that took these children in, they are French speakers. I don't know if they are French, their nationality is French, but they are French speakers, and this will also happen to smooth it out. Now, folks, now I have another one here, another video that is a very interesting video, because it proves how fast the EU is detaching itself from the American imperialism, so to speak. Okay, let's watch this video.
The European Union has signed a revamped trade deal with Mexico as part of efforts to expand its influence in Latin America, shortly after the Mercosur Pact entered into force. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was joined by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa for a summit in Mexico City to sign the deal.
The goal here is simple. We want to create even more jobs and value on both sides. With swift ratification, tariffs on virtually all Mexican agri-food exports to Europe will disappear. Imagine the opportunities. European companies, drawn by Mexico's talent and dynamism, already support more than 5 million jobs here, and there is much more to come.
The economic partnership reflects efforts on both sides to reduce their dependence on the US and on China. The deal strengthens the EU's diversification strategy by updating a 20-year-old agreement that had already eliminated tariff barriers on bilateral trade.
Right. First, folks, let me just explain this before we start to talk about the video. The EU and a lot of European countries, including Portugal, we already have trade agreements with Mexico, okay, and visa agreements and all of that. And it's an agreement that has been in place for at least 2 decades or something like that. The main difference right now is that this is Europe telling the United States that we can come into your backyard and make agreements with Mexico, and you have to sit your ass down and shut up. Okay, this is the political message, and it's also a political message on the part of Mexico, because Mexico is telling the United States this: you are not the boss of me. You don't dictate with whom I trade or how I act in the world. This is also very important, because you see, yes, it is Viper Scott. Because you see, this agreement is very important for the EU. this opens the gates. This tells the Mexicans this: we are here, we are going to trade fairly with you, our companies are going to go to your country too, we are going to invest in your country, we are going to give you jobs, we are going to pay taxes in your country, and we are going to buy your production and whatever. Okay, Mexico has a lot to give. Europe also has a lot to give to Mexico, and I hope we do so. But Mexico has to give to Europe. It has to oil, gas, raw materials, mineral raw materials, okay, farming products, all of it. A lot of those products were being sold to the United States. And those products, they are now going to be sold, guess where? To Europe. This is Europe. This is Europe doing the same thing. EU and Canada deal, or even Canada joining the EU. Wrong. Viper Scott. You wanna? I'm going to tell you. I need to make a video about that. But I chose to make this stream because I thought it would be better to explain all the stuff I want to talk about. I think Canada is going to be a part in a tier of a customs union with the EU. I think they are already doing it with a lot of stuff, and both military and economically and geopolitically, Canada is a valuable ally to Europe. We need the Canadians, and I think the Canadians also need us. And more than that, Canada knows that Europe is willing to make fair deals. You saw it with Mercosur. You saw it now with Mexico. As the president Ursula von der Leyen said, okay, Europe is open to business, and business is good for everyone. I know a lot of people say, oh, we will have a flooding of these products, of that products, and I tell you this: no, you will have regulation. I go to the local little store here, and like in any part in Europe, around 80%, 70% of the products that are in that supermarket, and this is a German supermarket, they are Portuguese. I can buy Portuguese vegetables, Portuguese meat, Portuguese cookies, whatever, traditional brands. I can buy them all in Lidl. And then I have things that I like. I have my German beer. I have my German Wurst. To people that like cheese, not me, you have your French cheese also. You have Italian products. You have South African products. Okay. You have Brazilian products. You have Argentinian products. You have all of them. This is good for everyone. If you support your local farmers, your local producers, these types of trade agreements, they benefit us all. And the most important thing about this agreement with Mexico is that Europe is reinforcing this agreement, because we already had it. And like Billy Kershaw says here, and it's true, John Deere is indeed moving its tractor production to Mexico. And they are not the only ones. My friends, the specialized workers are all there. Mexicans have been building, all of this time, they are the ones building American cars and tractors in this case. The Americans, they have assembly plants. And yes, exactly, that is true. Lidl and Aldi, oh look, excellent supermarkets. The one, I tell you this, I like a particular type of eggs, and there was in my hometown, they have a nursery, okay, for production. They have something to product free range eggs, and I can go to Lidl and buy those eggs that are from my region, from my home region, okay, I can buy those eggs for under €2. €2. And these are local products. Okay, because the difference between Lidl and Aldi with other supermarket chains, sorry, is that they buy locally. They buy a lot of local products. I think that in the UK it's the same, at least from what I heard. Okay, they buy a lot of products in the locally UK. I saw something they were talking. I saw a guy making a meal review or something like that. All right, and they had local beef and local products. Yes, you are saying yes, local Scottish products. Yes, 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 yes. So you see, this is why I don't understand people that are always bashing foreign investment, that are always bashing having ties with other countries. And I will tell you again and again and again what I heard when I was a kid. A German diplomat said this when they came here and they were supporting Portugal and Spain in this case entering the EU. And they were saying this German diplomat, he was saying, if my neighbor is wealthy, is prosperous, they will buy my products, and I will be able to buy theirs. And this is the essential difference of the mentality, for example, of the EU and of the USA. Because not everyone in the UK thinks this way, even with Brexit. Let's be serious about it, okay? But the difference is this: the US seeks only to suck up the profit and suck up all of the advantages and not give anything to anyone. This is what the US wants. This is what Trump is doing all over the world. But we are not going to talk much about that lunatic in this stream. I'll tell you this, all right? So I'm not going to ruin your dinner, all right, or your tea, like you say in the UK. I'm not going to ruin it for you. But this is the difference. Because look, if my neighbor, take Portugal and Spain, most of the Portuguese exports, we go to Spain. I think around 30% of our exports go right here to Spain. And we get the similar quantity of importations from Spain. We buy things from Spain. Everyone is happy. Portuguese companies, they work in Spain. Spanish companies, they work in Portugal. You will find more Spanish companies in Portugal. Well, Spain is bigger. It has more people. All right. Spain has around 3 times the population of Portugal. So this is normal. And people should not be surprised about it. But okay. Now, folks, let's go to the next news. Just give me a minute. I'm going to now show you a video that is called Trump is forcing the EU to act more mature in the world. And this is an interview to a European Parliament MEP. And I think it's important for us to listen to what he has to say. Okay, so let's listen into this video.
Now, moving on, later today, the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum will receive the Presidents of the European Commission and Council, Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, for the 8th EU-Mexico summit. They're expected to ink a revamped trade deal to replace the previous pact struck 25 years ago. It's set to slash tariffs on a range of goods, including agricultural products. Also in Mexico is Javi López, the European Parliament's Vice President, who has been part of these negotiations. I spoke to him in an interview and started by asking him what the deal offers for both sides.
first, after 10 years of negotiation and after 10 years without summits at the high level, that we will have it tomorrow, we are able to modernize the global agreement with Mexico after 25 years working with the current agreement. With this, we are doing more on trade, especially in predictable trade with higher standards, but also we are reinforcing our geopolitical alliance with one G20, a giant culturally, demographically, economically, and in a world where all of the rest big actors are using trade as a coercive force, and we are working for predictable trade agreements.
So is it fair to say this agreement is more than anything a reaction against the unpredictability perhaps of Trump's America? We know both Mexico and the EU have been targeted by aggressive trade policies from the US. And is that going to work? Because some would look at the agreement that the EU has signed with the US, the trade agreement, and would say, well, actually, Trump is calling the shots.
No, I think we are working in the right direction. We are working in the direction of diversification of our economic relations in the world, trying to reduce dependencies. Also, dependencies coming from the United States. This is the reality. Risking our dependencies in trade, also in security. And on that, we are having a mix of important association agreements. We have Mercosur, that it's a game changer with the region. We have the modernization of Mexico, and also we will have India. And it's three big examples of this offensive foreign action, foreign policy that we are having.
You mentioned Mercosur, and obviously that was a big step forward. But could you argue also that the EU has been a little bit slow to deepen ties with Latin America? And we're now seeing, of course, President Trump trying to reassert his sphere of influence over the Western Hemisphere. Has the EU been a little bit too negligent in the relationship?
It's true that it was during a lot of years not in the radar of the priorities of the EU, and we were extremely focused in our neighbors. Also, we had good reasons to do that. But at the same time, now, after the Ukraine war, I will say, but after the rise of Trump too to the White House, we are forced to think more strategically and act more mature in the world. And our relations with Latin America, especially, are strategical relations. It's the biggest partner in the world where we can work together for a multilateral dialogue, working with the same agenda: climate change, gender equality, inclusive growth, also defending international law and the chapter of United Nations. And on that, we are working with these association agreements that are key to reinforce and are real game changers in the region.
As I said in the chat, hello Phil Nelson. Thank you for coming, my friend. Now, as I was saying when I was commenting on the video with the Mexican, with the meeting between the Mexican PM and the president, sorry, and the EU representatives, this was the day before, when this guy, I like to hear him, to listen to him. He was talking about the importance of this. And now I'm going to tell you a little secret that we all know here in in the EU, but that the Americans seem to ignore. What does the EU buy mainly from the United States of America? Energy, oil and gas that replaced in some countries, not all of them. Portugal and Spain still buy the majority of our oil and gas from Algeria, from North Africa, and also a bit from Nigeria. And we were even buying from Venezuela before all the Trump sitcom. And weapons. And then you have other things, of course. You have some food products, not many food products, because of the difference of regulations between the food in Europe and in the United States. But there are American producers producing for Europe under our rules. Okay, let's not kid around. But it's mainly energy and weapons. So Europe really does not care about tariffs on American energy and weapons. In fact, we are the ones being benefit from it. Because if the Americans want to buy our products, then they are going to pay tariffs for it. Because European companies are not going to invest in the United States. In fact, they are removing themselves from the United States. Factories that were going to be built by European companies in the United States, they have been cancelled. Asian companies, they are doing the same. You remember that famous case of that South Korean car manufacturer that had all of their employees arrested because some woman decided that they were foreigners residing illegally in the United States. I think it was Hyundai, Billy Kershaw. I think so. I don't recall the name. This is the climate in the United States, and you are going to invest in that place? Because you see, we see right now with the World Cup, we see the price gouging and all of the things that they are doing, and this is what they do to foreign companies. If a foreign company goes to the United States and it installs itself in a city in the United States, the people in that city, they are going to try to remove as much money as they can from you, just like they do to the tourists and everything. And now they are very surprised because the tourist numbers are dropping. Yes, yes, thank you, Chef. Okay, and look, I want you to consider this. When you see someone say Trump is getting all that he wants, oh, no, no, my friends, but let me just read this comment. Style movement away from Trump's America, not only impacting American commerce, but globally seems Europeans are not traveling and operating on a world stage as once they did. Well, that is partially true, Phil. That is a good point. But the key issue here is that traveling, to use your expression, traveling and operating in a world without using the Americans, it's hard. It's not easy in some places. In some places. Because in South America, Portugal and Spain especially, working always outside of the American system, so to speak, let's call it like this, so it will be more easy to explain this. We have always had a lot of trade. Okay, I will talk about beef. Brazil and Argentina have always supplied Portugal and Spain with the beef that we cannot produce. Okay, but that situation that you are talking about, that situation of moving away from the United States, it becomes easier with each and every step that they gave in that direction. Meaning, now we make an agreement with, we made the agreement with Canada. Now we made it with Mexico. Now we made it with Mercosur. Now we made it with China. Now we made it with India. These are systems that are now completely independent of any kind of, let's call it, I wouldn't call it intervention because this is world trade, but of interference by the Americans. The Americans are not able to stop this. Why? Because they are using blackmail to try. The Americans are using coercion to try and get what they want, and that won't work. I'm not saying it won't work now. This, like the lunatic, you won't put zero, Trump, you will put zero tariffs on our products and we are going to put just a tariff of 25% in your products. This is a form of coercion. And Europe still has a lot of things to do. We could just drop their bonds, but we would lose money. We could lose. Look, Europe tomorrow we could sell the debt that we owed, that we have of U.S. treasury bonds and all of that. We could stop completely investing in the USA. There is still some investment in USA. Okay, I'm just saying there is no new investment, which is something completely different. But people, they are still keeping, European companies are still keeping their assets in the United States, more or less, except with production that is moving away to Mexico and to Canada. But imagine this as a postal service. You used to send your mail to the United States, okay? And that mail, then, when your mail arrived at the United States, you would be there, or you would have people there, and then you would use the American Postal Service, all right, to distribute those letters across the world. And what is happening now is this: Europe is not sending their post to the United States. I'm trying to make an analogy so I can explain this, okay? I'm sorry, but English is not my first language, all right? But we are not sending our letters to the Americas, to the United States, sorry. We are sending our mail. Now we are sending our letters directly to Mexico. We are sending our letters directly to Canada. We are sending our letters directly to South America, to Mercosur. We are sending our letters directly to Africa, to India, to China, to Australia, to New Zealand. Okay? So, okay, all right, Phil Nelson. I'm glad you understood. This is what we are doing. Now, is this going to, in a few months, Europe will have this wonderful direct connection and this and that? No. These are things that take time. It will be easier, for example, with Mexico and South America, because we already have these bridges. It will be easier with China, because we already have these bridges. Despite all the rhetoric, we already have these bridges. It will take a bit longer. We already have it with Canada, but Canada is still very intertwined with the United States. So it will take an effort, and we are going to in the right direction. Canada is going to be in a tier of in a certain tier. Canada will be a part of the EU, but understand this as not being a part of the customs union. But for example, you have countries in Europe itself that have a different relationship with the EU. You have Norway, and you have Switzerland. Okay, and this is how we are going to proceed, for example, with Canada. I'm sure this is what is going to happen. You are going to find a situation where you will have a greater harmonization with Canada and vice versa, because the purpose here is not to take over the Canadian market. This is not the purpose. The purpose is to do business with Canada. And as Billy Kershaw says here, can the UK have a Canada deal? Okay, I will make a different video for that. That is an excellent idea, Billy. Thank you very much. Yes, it can. But the issue here is that the United Kingdom, you still have that group of people that are the lunatics that will always fight Brexit, and that Starmer was trying to get into. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but that Starmer was trying to take over the Red Wall and all of that. He was trying to get them in. Okay, and then you have the other people that just want to go back to what you once used to be, and that does not exist. The UK does not have the same legal and economic position it had before. That's impossible. But it is possible. It is possible. Yes, Iceland Nordic Free Trade Agreement, or very similar deal with Canada. Yes, all of this is possible. And this is why Starmer annoys me, because he simply doesn't seem to be able to come out to the British people and tell them this: my friends, we need to follow EU regulations because of this and this and this. Do you realize that if, for example, the United Kingdom accepted the same type of rules for agriculture and for food production that are decided in the EU, if the UK decided this, and if, for example, they decided to allow free movement of workers, of seasonal workers into the United Kingdom, they could solve two problems in a row. They could solve the problem of having manpower for their farming business, and they could sell their products quicker in the EU, and they could buy quicker in the EU. Such simple things that could be done. But he is not doing it because of this entire shit with the far right. And the far right, they are not. Yes, and exactly though, she's, look, right here in the chat. Okay? Advance UK, Reform UK, Restore UK, Forgot Starmer will be a right-wing Zio country from 2029, just like the USA, sadly. Well, if you don't take a detour, that will happen. And the British people need to understand, and I'm going to stop here because or else I won't talk about the other things I want to talk about. But the people in the United Kingdom, they need to take a decision of what they want. Do you want to be some kind of lunatic paradise, or do you want to be a normal European country? And to me, each and every British citizen is a European. To me, you are European just like me. Even if Farage thinks perhaps that they are some kind of special thing. I don't know. But I think he's just there for the grift. But that is another stuff. But this is what they have to decide. Okay. What can I tell you? But Billy, I will make a video about it. I will make a video about it because I think it's important. Now, the next video that I'm going to show you, this video is the EU economist chief that is certain that we will not return to Russian oil. Let me just say. Sadly, you are right, Phil Nelson. At least from what I see. But let's see. Okay, one can only hope. Maybe this entire Trump situation will serve as some kind of a catalyst for something better. Now, I'm going to show you this video because I think it's important. Because this is to speak to some trolls that have been coming into my comment section saying shit like, if you don't support the USA, now you support Russia. Okay? Yes, I've been having those videos. I take them out, but they pop up like mushrooms. Let's watch this.
Our Europe editor, Maria Tadeo, spoke to the Economy Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis yesterday, and she started by asking him about this, about whether the EU would have to contemplate easing sanctions on Russian commodities, as the US and the UK have done, to ease the impact of the energy crisis on Europeans.
We already saw back in 2022 that Russia tried to use its fossil fuel supplies as a tool for blackmail and manipulation, and we paid a quite dear economic price for having this dependency from Russia, so therefore there's no point of going back to this. We have diversified our supplies. Our largest gas supply is now Norway, our largest LNG supplier is US, and so on. There are strategic decisions taken to move away completely from Russian oil and gas, and we have to follow it through.
But you rule out, because this is very important, that by the winter, by Christmas, the temperatures going down, that the EU will not take any measures, easing sanctions on Russian energy at any level?
Well, if anything, we need to strengthen sanctions against Russia, not ease, because actually Russia is a country benefiting from this conflict in the Middle East and those higher energy prices, getting substantial windfall profits. So we should not facilitate it further. And it's worth noting that already now we started the process of refilling our gas storages. Well, it currently goes, so to say, within the historical range range of this time of the year, that's something we, in any case, need to do. We need to prepare ourselves for the next winter.
But you don't feel blackouts? You don't fear that, once again, as we talked about in 2022, there was a real fear that Europe would come to a halt. It will grind to a halt, that the industry would not be able to operate because of a shortage of supplies. You don't expect that to be the case by the end of the year?
No, we do not expect this to be the case now. Indeed, there was this risk back in 2022 or winter from 22 to 23, exactly because we were dependent from Russian fossil fuel supplies, so we should not get back there.
This week, the head of the Italian government sent a letter to the Commission. By now, it's very clear that Giorgia Meloni believes the Commission is not taking her concerns seriously. She says that this is just as equally important energy to defense. What are you going to offer the Italian Prime Minister that is going to placate her anger? Because by now it's clear they are not satisfied with the measures you provided.
We are obviously now looking at policy options and also our fiscal policy response, but as a main message in case remains that the support measures need to be temporary and targeted, the ones which are not sustaining or increasing demand for fossil fuels. So on one hand, not just to perpetuate higher energy demand and thus higher global energy prices, because we are facing supply shock, so we cannot resolve it by stimulating demand. Second, we must keep in mind also more limited fiscal room of maneuver, and also flexibilities already existing in our fiscal framework. We have a number of automatic stabilizers which can play out, which allows for, in a sense, certain fiscal buffer before even member states come with the discretionary measures. But we are doing this assessment and preparing it.
So you're listening to her concerns?
Well, we certainly are listening to the concerns of member states and looking appropriate policy response.
I don't know Viper Scott. I don't know if he is Finnish or if he's from the Baltics. Okay, but he's from around there. All right, no, but I like. How can I explain his function? He's like sort of an economic minister of economy or something like that. Okay, or energy of the EU. But you have to understand that the Commission functions in a different way than a government. But let's continue now. First of all, exactly doll, I'm sorry for you, okay, and also for you, Phil Nelson. But what can I tell you? I don't know. I hope change comes. But look, if the UK does not turn around, man, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But again, my friends, you have my promise. I'm going to make a video about that and speak a little about it. Okay? Now, let's talk. This is the direct response to those people that think that this war or this situation with the United States is going to somehow push us to the Russians again. No. Oh, hello all shots. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing? This is not going to push us into the Russian arms in any way or manner. Only someone that doesn't understand the degree of hatred that now exists between Europe and Russia, only a person that says that or that doesn't understand that would say that. And I have heard a lot of American YouTubers, some of them even democratic, okay, talking about this shit. And let me tell you this, don't go there. Don't go there, okay? Because you are being stupid. Do you realize the amount of pain and hurt that the Baltic states and Eastern Europe has suffered at the hands of the Russians? Do you understand they are just next door to those idiots? Do you understand the continuous danger that look, like the Baltic Prime Minister, the girl, the woman, I don't recall her name. She was talking about. She was saying that we have to get used to these drone alerts and all of this because this is the new normal. These people, they are living in a state of continuous war. They are always on alert. This is why Poland has developed such a large army. This is why Finland, like our friend Vertigo talks often about it, now has one of the most modern and powerful army in Europe. This is why the danger, the danger that Russia represents to us all. And it doesn't just represent a danger to those that are in the border. That lunatic has a look. This might seem like a cartoon, but a Russian dissident was talking about Putin. He had a map in which they had written from Lisbon to Vladivostok, meaning this idiot wants to dominate Europe. And I am glad that the Russians are now suffering the pains of war. I'm not happy about it, okay? Because like I told you before in many videos, I don't think Schadenfreude is adequate in any situation. But I am glad that they are suffering the effects of the war so that they can understand what is actually at stake here. St. Petersburg and Moscow are now suffering the same effects that the rest of the country has been experiencing. The Ukrainians, they are bombing the oil production facilities of the Russians. So far, Russia has been forced to shut down 400 oil wells because they have no place to process that oil from. Yes, Viper Scott. Putin wants the old USSR back. It's worse than that, Viper Scott. It's even worse than that. That guy, he wants to create some kind of religious pan-Russian empire to occupy in the entire Europe. That is what that lunatic wants. And he's a very dangerous man. Let me tell you this. I don't kid around with Putin. I hate his guts, but I don't kid around with him. When that idiot speaks, I listen to what he is saying. When he brings out his puppets that keep talking, I don't care about it. Okay, because that is just their puppets. But when he speaks, I listen carefully to what he's saying. And right now, let me tell you this, the situation inside of Russia, it's very dire. Putin, he is getting severe backlash. But we don't know what or who will succeed to Putin. Because the one that succeeds Putin, he knows the problems that Russia is going to face in the future, and he's going to try to solve it. Russia is going into a demographic crisis, for example. With all of these wasted resources, human resources in Ukraine, the population of Russia is not going to be 140 millions in 20 years. It will be around 120 millions, if they are lucky. And in 2 generations' time, it will be perhaps under 100 million. And this is happening while all the countries near Russia, including Europe, are increasing their demographics. And as Al Short said here, this is true. Russia has used depleted uranium warheads as found by Ukraine. Yes, it's correct, Marcus. They have also used white phosphorus. They are even rumored to have used chemical weapons. They are using it all. And now, I will make a video about this. He is even moving nuclear warheads into Belarus. And the president of Belarus now wants to talk with Zelensky to try to find a solution with this. And he's not trying to find a solution. He's not trying to find it because of Putin. He's trying to find the solution to this because he knows that if the Russians invade Ukraine through Belarus, Poland is going to intervene in Belarus. Look, have absolutely no doubts about this. If an invasion comes from Belarus into Ukraine, we are going to have World War III. This is my conviction, or at least a larger regional war in Europe. But let's hope, and let's see. Let me just read the comments. Putin speaks up, you listen to it, and he is getting backlash. This is Viper Scott. Russian flock are saying it. Putin's war. That's a change in what was said before. Yes. You want to know why, Viper Scott? Because now people look. This Konstantin from inside Russia says this expression, and I agree with him. He says that there was a social contract in Russia that said, and I'm not going to go too deep into this. There was a social contract in Russia that stated this: the state can rule as it feels fit, as long as the Russian people have their internet, they have their jobs, they have their vacations in Europe, they can go to Dubai and whatever. Companies can continue to trade and to make money and all of that. People were very comfortable in denying themselves their rights of free speech for material comfort. Okay? This was the social agreement. And now that social agreement, that social contract has been broken. Because Russians are starving. Some of them are already starving. Okay? Internet is being cut. Russians cannot go anywhere in Europe. They are getting expelled from everywhere. Their visas are being cancelled, and some European countries still gave visas to Russians. There was even a scandal a year ago when Russian tourists were found in the Algarve, here in Portugal. It was a really big thing, and heads rolled because of that little joke. And apparently those tourists had residence in Italy, and they came from Italy to here. But that's another story. Let's go on. But that social contract it's not being fulfilled. The state now is not providing the Russians with the things that they promised them they were going to get. Because look, I am sure that the Russians know exactly what was happening in Ukraine. Even with all the propaganda, they knew what was happening in Ukraine. They only called it the special military operation because that was what the Kremlin said. This is something in which I don't agree with, for example, the Konstantin from inside Russia. You want to know why? Because my parents also lived in a dictatorship. And we had a bloody colonial war right here in Portugal. And people did not talk about this in the news. They only called the colonial war, it was just scuffles. Well, it was just communist rebels and this and that, okay? But every bloody citizen in the country knew we were in a war. And just for you to understand this, my dad and five of my uncles, they were all in that colonial war, and they were all special ops. So they were in the heat of the fray. And When the bodies start piling in and they started being returned to the country, when the economy began to falter, when the free healthcare and the free education that people here had, with its limitations because it was a bit of an elitistic society, but when that started to fall, then in that moment, the government started to falter, and then Salazar died. Other people succeed him, and they tried to keep the same going. But but this is what is happening in Russia. Phil Nelson, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for coming here. Okay, I appreciate it. Now let me just conclude this reasoning. The social contract that the Russians had, it's not working. People are not being fed properly. They are recruiting people from the Moscow and St. Petersburg region. Other large cities are also being they are recruiting people. They don't have manpower for farming. They don't have manpower for manufacture. Companies are closing. Money is running out, and services are faltering. Okay, there are cities right now in Russia. There are cities right now in Russia that don't have sewers, that have rivers of shit in the streets. And this happened in the countryside. But right now, it's happening in the heart of Russia. And this is why people are protesting. And this is why, whatever happens to this government, it will happen. But if Putin dies, someone will succeed to him. And maybe they will continue this war. I gave you the example of the colonial war. The colonial war in Portugal, it continued right to the day when the government fell. And this can also happen in Russia. And now I'm going to talk about this comment of Marcus because it's very important. I have the screen in this side, okay, folks? Sorry. I feel the US involvement in NATO is now detrimental. We must spend military budget more wisely. Pedro Sanchez was right on this. Yes, absolutely right. Being associated with the United States in this moment of time, it has been harmful for us Europeans. And Marcus, let me be clear about this. I am not so sure that we are a target. Okay, I'm not so sure we are a target. I say we are more in danger of having a false flag operation being committed on us Europeans. Okay, I'm including the EU, the UK. Okay, both talking about Europe. We are more at risk of having a false flag attack on us and blamed on Iran to involve us in this war than we are at danger of being directly attacked by Iran. And you want to know why? Because Iran doesn't want it. Iran wants to divide the alliances. And I keep telling this to people. We are going to have to deal with the United States after this is over. We are going to have to deal with the United States. But we need to be more independent. And in this aspect, I also agree fully with Pedro Sanchez. He's absolutely right. And Macron, okay? And Macron, and even my own Prime Minister, Montenegro, okay? We need to be more independent from the United States, okay? And we need to detach our economy, and we need to end all of this. Now, folks, I'm going to show you a video, and this will be the last subject of this stream, okay? I'm sorry, I have been here talking, yapping for a long time. But now we are going to talk to what happened to the people in the flotilla that was apprehended in international waters. Let's not forget that, by the Israeli army. And let's talk about. I'm going to show you two videos. Okay, so let's watch this video and then we can talk about it. Just give me a minute.
Israel began deporting hundreds of activists on Thursday after they were captured in international waters near Cyprus and detained in Israel. The activists were part of the global Sumud flotilla that had set sail to attempt to breach Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. Italians that were part of the flotilla described details of mistreatment and violence as they arrived in Rome.
Quando ci portano sulla nave prigione, so botte dall'inizio. Quindi quando io poi sono uscito da sto container di ingresso, lì ho trovato gli altri, anche gente che era stata picchiata molto più di me, c'era gente che non si reggeva in piedi, cioè che per andare al bagno c'erano dei bagni chimici e bisognava accompagnarli in due.
Even as the activists were released, international condemnation continued to pour in after a video shared by Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir showed him taunting the detained activists who were handcuffed and kneeling.
Insisto, ese tratamiento es monstruoso, es indigno, es inhumano. Exijo disculpas públicas a Israel. He convocado urgentemente al Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores a la encargada de negocios de Israel para trasladarle todo nuestro rechazo, toda nuestra repulsa y toda nuestra repugnancia por ese trato absolutamente abominable e inaceptable.
Italy, Ireland, and Spain have called on the EU to sanction Ben-Gvir over the video showing the alleged mistreatment of the activists, many of whom are European citizens.
Now, I'm also going to show you a video. This would be the last video I will show you. Where I will be talking about some of the reactions that are already growing in Europe, and that I think we are going to see the consequences, real consequences in the future. The first thing I'm going to say, like Viper Scott is saying here in the chat, kidnapped is exactly what it was the IDF did, and this is what they did. They kidnapped people in international wars. They committed piracy. They committed a crime. And I'm going to tell you another thing that I said in a comment in a channel, okay, that I watch, an American channel that I watch, and I said this, and I'm going to reproduce to you what I said. I said something like, Israel has spent its Holocaust card. I'm not monetized, okay? We can speak the truth here. Israel has spent its Holocaust card with all the shit they have been doing in Palestine. With all of those people dead in Palestine, all of those civilians dead, and now in Lebanon and in Iran, Israel has spent that letter. They can no longer try to guilt trick us into that shit. And I am standing here talking with you as the great grandson of a German. I have German blood in both sides of my family. And not Jewish German. German, East Prussian. And I will tell you this. I heard the stories that my grandfather heard from his German cousins. I heard it all. I read about it. And the IDF is now doing to the Palestinians exactly what they did, what was done to them. The destruction of Gaza, of the cities of Gaza, it's no difference of what the Nazis did in the ghettos in Poland, when they crammed the Jews all into one place, and then one day they decided they didn't want them there. They went into the ghettos and they assassinated everyone and committed acts of brutality that all of us would hope never to see again. But unfortunately, here we are, 2026, and this is happening right now. As we speak, there is someone being brutalized in Lebanon or in Palestine. This is something we all have to come to grips with. Okay, all of us Europeans, okay, all of us, we need to understand this. We need to call things as they are. We need to look at this situation and say, this is genocide. This, you want to call it something else, call it something else. But it won't change the fact of what it is. We need to look at this and call it as it is. And we have to also say something that is very important. Do not confuse Judaism with this. Your Jewish neighbor that goes to the synagogue, that lives next door to you, and that is a decent person, that person is a decent person. They have nothing to do with these people. They have nothing to do with these settlers harassing Palestinians out of their land. They have nothing to do with the IDF's soldiers brutalizing people. They even sexually, it wasn't said here, but I saw it here in Portuguese news, they even sexually harassed women and men when they detained them in this flotilla. I don't know if there was any rape, but they arrested them. Okay? Let's put this into context. But this has nothing to do, if you are in the UK or if you are here in Portugal, your Jewish neighbors, if they don't support this, then they are decent people just like you. Religion has nothing to do with this. This is cultural brutality. You want to call it Zionism? Well, it's Zionism, okay? Call it, give it a name. To me, it's brutality. And I am sure there are decent people inside of Israel. I'm absolutely sure of that. But what I'm also absolutely sure is that this idiot, this Ben Gvir, he was walking around acting like a Nazi. He was doing exactly the same thing that you see in the movies when the Nazis enter into town, and they even went into the trouble of filming it, entering into a town and then forcing the Jews all to kneel down and beating them up. He's doing exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. But I will repeat this, don't be an anti-Semite. And like I said in my other video, to not support Israel does not mean you are an anti-Semite. Allshots was talking here about Miriam Margolis. Okay? And yes, perhaps she's right. But I have heard it from the mouth of Jews, calling this as it is. And yes, Billy Kershaw, free Israel from its oppressors. These people are oppressors of the Jewish people, because they are not just destroying their future, the future of their country. They are in fact destroying the future of Israel, and they are making the life of Jewish people all across the world extremely dangerous. But let me reinforce this. Your British neighbors that are Jewish, they are British citizens, just like your Muslim neighbors are British citizens. The same thing here. My Muslim neighbors, my Jewish neighbors, they are Portuguese neighbors. Okay? We have to detach things, we have to separate things. I have heard live testimony. I have spoken with people, Jewish people, And that guy that I spoke with, his grandfather is a rabbi, and he was absolutely terrified. He doesn't even mention it that he's in Israel because he's afraid. People are getting afraid, and this is absolutely unqualified. We cannot allow this to happen. Okay, we cannot just stand by and do nothing. We have to take measures. We have to punish these people. And now, okay, they already banned Ben Gvir from entering in Europe and all of that. But that doesn't solve the subject, okay? We have to cut economic ties with Israel, for example. We have to kick them out of Eurovision. It's a small thing, but an important one. A lot of PR. We have to do this. And yes, all short. The people who needs to listen to this are not willing to listen. Yes, it's true. But you want to know what? I'm going to keep on trying to say it. Now, folks, let's watch this another video. And again, links to the videos will be provided in this stream. Okay, I'm going to leave them here. And I would advise you also to go to Euronews and watch their news feed, because it's very important. Okay, and I think, at least from my perspective, they are 99% correct. What is Israel's economy largely based on? I think agriculture products, chemical products. I'm talking to, for example, to my country. They are not selling too much, but they are selling agriculture products, chemical products, refined oil products. I think they also sell them to Europe. Weapons. These are the ones that pop into my mind just like this, Billy. But if you want to, I can look into it. Now, let's watch this video, folks.
Several European countries have expressed outrage after Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir shared a video showing him taunting activists from an aid flotilla headed for Gaza, among them European citizens. Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, has reacted. She said, "It is intolerable that these protesters, among whom there are many Italian citizens, are subjected to this treatment which violates human dignity. We demand an apology." Now, earlier this week, the Israeli government had accused the flotilla of breaching international law and of being a, quote, PR stunt at the service of Hamas. But Ben-Gvir's actions have attracted rare criticism from the Israeli government, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said Israel has every right to prevent provocative flotillas of Hamas terrorist supporters from entering our territorial waters and reaching Gaza. However, the way that Minister Ben-Gvir dealt with the flotilla activists is not in line with Israel's values and norms. Well, our correspondent Vincenzo Genovese spoke to MEP Benedetta Scuderi in Strasbourg, where the European Parliament sits this week, and asked for her reaction.
We're seeing these horrible videos of the activists being beaten, being forced to be on their knees, being basically tortured, with a minister of a state that we have a lot of relationship with shouting at them. So as Europe, we need to have a strong stand. That means that we really need to stop the association agreement with Israel according to Article 2, because there's a clear violation of human rights for Palestinians, and there's a clear violation of any kind of law and legality that is now starting to affect also European citizens, and this is unacceptable.
All right. Now, folks, as Olshot said here in the chat, absolutely right, Ben-Gvir still has a job. So, where are the consequences? What are the consequences of Mr. Ben-Gvir when they passed the law in the Israeli parliament to be able to kill. I will not call it execute. Kill any Palestinian that dares to act against the Israeli state. When he was celebrating that, celebrating it with little nooses, little hangman nooses, isn't that also against the values of Israel? It's a fair question, don't you think? But yet, there he is, there he stands. He's still there, my friends. He is still there. They are all there. What happened to that soldier that sexually raped Palestinian prisoners? What happened to him? What happened to those two IDF soldiers that I saw disrobing a Palestinian woman and throwing her into the back of a lorry and doing who knows what to her, to a naked beaten woman in the back of a lorry? They went into that lorry with her. No, sorry. No, it doesn't. It didn't pass. Pepper Scott, let me do something. Pepper Scott, you are now a moderator in my channel. Alright, my friend? I trust you, okay? Now you can, I don't know if you need to refresh, but now you can put the links in the chat, okay? Now, let me continue with this. I have heard a lot of MPs here in the European Parliament calling for some specific things that I think are extremely good ideas. Okay, let me just put it this way. Let me just have a simple thought. They are talking about ending the strategic cooperation agreement that the EU has with Israel, that allows Israel, amongst other things, to buy weapons and to buy supplies and all of that from the EU, and to sell a lot of products into the EU too. Will it pass? Well, I don't know, because you see, in the current German government, not the German people, but in the current German government, there are still some that are not comfortable in cutting off their strategic cooperation with Israel. Because guess what? They are always getting guilt tripped. Okay. Folks, Alistair has put a link here where you can check the exports of Israel to Europe and vice versa. Okay, thank you, Alistair. Now, they are still, as I was saying, they are still trying to guilt trip Germany into not do this. Okay, they also do the same thing with Portugal. Okay, we also have a long history with the Jewish faith. We expelled a lot of Jewish people in the 1500s from Portugal. We then now recently, I don't know, around 20 years ago, we recognized the rights of the descendants of those people to have a Portuguese nationality or dual nationality. One of the greatest scandals was before all of this confusion with Ukraine, when the Russians invaded Ukraine. Abramovich, he got his Portuguese passport. As far as I know, later on it was rescinded because there was some kind of issues with his paperwork. Apparently, the leader of the synagogue of Lisbon, the religious leader, he was paid to give him papers that prove that he was a descendant of the Ashkenazi Jews, which is the name for which the Jews that were expelled from Portugal are known, Ashkenazi. But I think his children still have the Portuguese nationality, the dual passport. So as you can see, there are also a lot of ties with Portugal, for example. And Israel is using that to guilt trip Europe into this. And what I am saying, what a lot of politicians in my country and all over Europe are saying, is this simple truth. Okay? This is very simple. What is Israel doing in Palestine? Crimes. What did they do to the people in this flotilla? Crimes. What did they do to Greta Thunberg and the previous flotilla? Crimes. What are they doing to UN peacekeepers in Lebanon? Crimes. We cannot stand idly by and let some kind of a guilt trip, I call it that, guilt tripping trick. We cannot allow that to make us ignore or choose not to punish crimes. And Israel is committing crimes. Okay, I don't know what is your opinion about this in the chat. You can say, okay, but to me, I think it's about time we end this shit. And look, I don't care how much money they are pouring into Europe, because if they are pouring in money into Europe, then we have to find it and end it. And if someone tells you that this is very hard to do in Europe, they are wrong. In the UK, and I'm going to use the UK as an example, but this also translates to other countries, like, for example, the United States. Yes, Pilikas. Yes, Pilikas. That was called the Tordesilhas Treaty, from a Spanish city. The Pope divided the map and said this hemisphere was of Portugal and the other one was of Spain. And it lasted for around a century and a half. Our dominance, yes. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. In the UK, it's very easy for someone like Nigel Farage to get the kickback and call it a donation. It's also very easy for some people in Labour, and we all know, all of us, including All Shots, Viper Scott, Billy Kershaw, all of you that have been in these chats and see the news, we all know that the Israel is pouring money into the UK, paying off deputies and MPs to get influence and all of that. We also know what the Jews are doing. What the Israelis. I'm sorry, I have to correct myself. The Israeli are doing in the United States, paying off people like Trump and all of that. We all know that. But in Europe, it would be easy to find the source of the money. But they are choosing to say this is all very legitimate. We can trust Israel. Israel invested in this company, and we can trust in their investment. This has absolutely nothing attached to it. And that feeling, that idea, that is over. Okay, it's being questioned all over Europe. It started in countries like Spain, Italy, France, and it's also in Germany. But in Germany, they have to be extremely careful in the way they phrase it. Because even from a legal point of view, the legal system in Germany has very specific rules and regulations to prevent Nazism. They don't want it again. This is why symbols like the swastika, like certain flags, certain chants are forbade. There are military marches that are forbade because they are related with the Third Reich. When I was a kid, for example, I learned a German march that is a Prussian march, that is the Panzerlied, which is the march of that was used by the German panzers, and you cannot sing that march in Germany. At least a couple of years you could not do it. Right now, I don't know. So there is this this legal perspective in Germany that a lot of people don't understand. This is why when I was talking with that troll that I mentioned about the Germans and all of that, I also told him, so you are confusing the German government with the German people. And what I am trying to tell you is that this guilt card that the Israeli state has been using to get its way, to do whatever they want in Palestine, they burned it. And all shots here, he said this here in the chat, it's absolutely right. They burned it. They burned that letter, and all of us here, all of us in Europe, meaning the United Kingdom, the EU, all of us, we have to understand this, and we cannot allow this. Okay, you folks in the UK, you have to stand up to this too. You cannot allow look. This measure of the attacks of Starmer against the movement to free Palestine and all of that. I'm sorry, but these are very details. These are very detailed. Sorry, excuse me. I'm getting a bit tired. I'll be ending soon, okay? All of this, they seem like they were specifically designed to hit these movements and to not allow people to criticize Israel. And that to me is very dangerous, because at least here, as long as I'm not calling on hatred or breaking the law, I can perfectly say, me as a Portuguese citizen, I can say this: I think Israel is committing crimes in Palestine, and no one is going to arrest me for that, because I'm not calling, and I would never call for the destruction of Israel, whatever. No. I would never say that, because that is also not correct. What I do know is this: there is a solution for the problems in Palestine, and that is called the two-state solution. And that, to me, my political position is this: give the Palestinians their state, let them self-rule themselves, leave them alone, okay, and just defend yourself. And Viper Scott is saying this, okay. They also try to silence people in Scotland for speaking out against Westminster. Thank you, person impersonator. All good. I'll be ending soon too. Thank you, my friend. They are using this. Westminster, the government, that entire institution, it's using this to silence people that are criticizing the State of the Union. All right. And this is the way the Union ends. And as I told you in other videos, and this is my personal position, okay? This has nothing to do with my, let's call it, how I frame the ideas here in the chat, how in the videos, okay, how I'll talk about it. But my position is this: it's that Scotland needs its independence. This is my personal position, because I have spoken with enough Scottish people to understand that they need to have their independence. And look, and even if, for example, the devolution goes further than it already has gone, something has to happen, because people in Scotland cannot be subjected to the whims and wills of England. You either have a union of states, which is what the United Kingdom is. United Kingdom is not a country, it's a union of countries under one king. All right? You either have an equality in the union, or you don't have a union. Because you saw what happened with Brexit. England voted for Brexit. And this cannot happen. And this situation in Palestine and with Israel, I will say this. Yes. Look, Star Wars, Billy, Star Wars analogies, perfectly correct, my friend. The more you tighten your grip, the more we slip through your fingers. Yes, that's absolutely correct. You cannot hold someone in captivity this way. And what Israel is doing right now, it needs to be punished. This actions, it needs to have actual consequences. And we need to stop this shit. Have you seen this entire war? I know people like to blame it, say, oh, it's Netanyahu forcing Trump. No, it's both of them. But I'm not going to talk about this in this stream, okay? I'll make a dedicated video or something and talk about it. But Israel can end this tomorrow. They can simply remove their troops from Lebanon, stop attacking Lebanon, stop attacking Palestine, and say this: Hamas, let's make a deal. Two-state solution. And then you will make Hamas, or whoever succeeds it, because let's not forget that Hamas, half of them are terrorists. I know some people like to say they are all terrorists. No. Some of them are people that are genuinely trying to fight for their survival. And others are terrorists. Yes. Yes, that's absolutely true. But, look, Sinn Féin, they were also terrorists. Right? Now they are a political party. The same thing can happen to Hamas. The key issue here is that Israel doesn't want this. Because this war, Israel, let's say it as it is. Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, people like him, they don't want peace. They want war. Because war allows them to continue to push the limits of what they can justify with this war. They want to push the Palestinians out. They want that greater Israel. They want that third temple. They want all of that shit, that delusion, that Nazi delusion, that you want to know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Hitler and his delusions of Lebensraum. Vital space to live. It's what this means. It's like they are creating their own Lebensraum, okay, in order to be able to live in their great empire. And then when they have that empire created, then they will expand it even more. And then they will always have a justification. Hitler, he united with Austria. He got the Sudeten. He got all that he wanted. He even gave that little paper that Chamberlain took to Britain as a proof that he wasn't going to start a war. And then he invaded Poland. Then he invaded France. Then he caused all of the shit that we are enduring here. This situation in Israel, it's how world wars start. Because the United States is a decaying superpower, okay? What is going to happen to the United States? Well, I'm going to talk this further in another video because I really need to finish up here. All right, my friends? I'm already 30 minutes over my limit, but the United States is going to decrease its power. This is my conviction, unless there is some kind of extraordinary event. They are going to lose their power, but they are going to continue to be in the Western sphere. They are going to lose a lot to China. They already lost the war with China, okay? But if they are able to elect a democratic president, he will more or less make amends with the partners. The partners will not trust him, but at least there will be some kind of normalcy in the relationships. But this will only happen if they solve this Israel shit. If they tell Israel, look, we are not going to support you, we cannot endure this. And Israel right now is only being able to proceed with this war because they have some sort of control over Trump. Control or mutual objectives. But I will talk about this in another video. But this was the last video that I wanted to talk with you folks about. And this just to tell you this simple phrase. The time of the guilt trip is over. We know what happened in World War II. We know how horrific it was. But you, Israel, you are repeating it. This is my personal opinion, okay? But in my personal opinion, this is what you are doing. All right. Folks, thank you very much to each and every one of you that came here. Okay, and the ones that came into the chat: Viper Scott, Phil Nelson, All Shorts, Person Impersonator, Exotic Doll. Okay, thank you very much for coming here, and thank you for listening to my ramblings. Folks, like I said, I'm going to try to make this a habit. Tomorrow I will record a couple of more videos and publish them, and I'm going to try to make a stream at least every Saturday. And I'm going to start to make it at 17:30, okay, 5:30 in the afternoon, UK time. It's the same time here in Portugal. Okay, so I'm going to try to make it a habit, but I'm going to, when I have the schedule all figured out in my head, I'm going to publish a post and tell it to all of you guys. Now, thank you very much for coming, folks, and have a great Sunday. Good, Billy.